Today we're going to dive into 3 mindsets that will ruin a marriage. So 3 mindsets. So I'm talking about mindsets because actions can ruin a behavior, but oftentimes our actions are driven by what we believe, by our mindsets, right? And so one of the mindsets that's really prevalent in marriages that are going downhill is that they'll never change, so why should I? Right? Have you ever thought that? Oh, they're never going to change, so why should I? It's like we're given up to defeat, right? We're a victim to our relationship. We're a victim to the person we're married to. But I believe we are called to have some personal responsibility that even if they don't change, who's God called me to be? So as a wife, regardless of what Skylar does, and I'm not saying he's able to abuse me. I'm not saying he's able to do anything inappropriate. I'm not saying that, so don't take this to the extreme. But regardless of how he is, I have a level of responsibility to act the way that God's called me to be. So if he doesn't want to deal with an issue, can I still show up lovingly, right? If he doesn't want to talk about a conflict, how can I work through it? Or does that give me license to be unforgiving and resentful and to withhold, right? Because the belief that, they'll never change, so why should I? That's what that will lead to. You're a victim to the circumstance, but I want to be the victor. Because when I feel like a victim, I feel hopeless. I feel out of control. I feel angry. I feel frustration. I feel a little bit confused sometimes when I let my actions be dictated by how my spouse shows up. So another lie sometimes that we can believe that will ruin a marriage is I'll change when they do, right? When they start to show up, then I will. And it goes along the same lines as the other one. It puts your action and your responsibility on your spouse. So it's almost like you get out of it and be like, I'm not going to do anything until they do, right? They move first. And if you're watching this video, I believe that you are called to be the one to move first. I believe it only takes one person to change a marriage, to change the trajectory of a marriage, to create connection, to create love. But that one person has to be committed. They can't waver in and out with what the other person does. They have to be committed to know that, okay, I'm going to I love this, there's this little drawing that I do, and it has 3 circles, right? So imagine that there's these 3 circles. And in this circle over here is the past. And in this circle right here is the present. And so often we let the past dictate our actions in the present. We let the failures that our spouse has done, we let how they used to act, how they've acted up until now, we let the past dictate our present actions. And what I'm talking about right now, what would shatter up these first two lies is, can you allow the present, the future's over here. Can you allow the future, what do you want your marriage to be? What do you want to create in your marriage? And can you allow that to dictate how you show up in the present? Right? So if you want to create greater connection, but you tend to shut down when things get hard, right? Letting the future dictate your present would say, okay, when things get hard, I'm going to choose something different because I'm not going to let my past hurts dictate my present, how I'm going to act. So you would have to choose something different in order to allow your future to dictate your present. And that's your responsibility. That's not your spouse's, right? So the third lie that we can believe is that we're growing apart, so why even try, right? I'm just going to surrender to whatever happens, right? As if you have no control in where your marriage is going. I'm letting you know you have a say in where your marriage is going. It's interesting, even when you feel like you don't. Skylar and I had a conversation where he chose to do something, and I was very against that choice. And I had voiced in that conversation, I was very against it. It hurt my feelings, I didn't like it. And then time went on, and he didn't change his choice. He was committed to his choice. And then time went on, and I was angry about that choice. And I was hurt, and I was going to hold on to it. But I eventually agreed and said, fine, whatever you're going to do, let's do it. And years later, this choice has come up as a point of contention in our marriage. And I was like, I had no choice. You didn't let me. And he's like, is that really true? He's like, you didn't go see a therapist and talk about it, and you didn't do any research and tell me why your choice would have been better than mine. You did nothing. Yeah, you might have protested in the beginning, but you did nothing to actually change it. You weren't persistent in changing it. You could have done something. If you would have been certain like me and gave me facts and continue to show up in it, my mind could have been changed. Like, I might have been open to change. So, like, is there something in your marriage where, like, you've just, like, kind of given up to, like, well, this is just how it's going to be. And so you've stopped asking. You've stopped pressing in. You've stopped leaning in. You've stopped showing up. What if that's what it's going to take, right? Because right now you're getting what you're getting in your marriage. And so if you're going to change that, you're going to have to do something different in your marriage, because suffering is optional. Suffering is a choice that we make. We can choose to be surrendered to just having an okay marriage, or we can allow the future, a great marriage, great connection, and great intimacy to drive our present results. And it comes down to what you're committed to, right? So sometimes it's so easy to say, well, I'm committed to having a great marriage, but this. You're not committed. You're committed to whatever you were going to say after that but. I'm committed to having a marriage if only this. What you're more committed to is not having a great marriage. You're committed to whatever you're going to say after if only this. I'm committed to a great marriage when my husband this. You're committed to being a victim to whatever your husband does, right? Or whatever your wife does. You getting committed has nothing to do with the other person. It has nothing to do with how they respond. That's their choice. That's their response. But what are you committed to doing? And can you be committed when someone else doesn't agree? Right? So often our spouse doesn't respond the way we want them to, or they don't agree with us, and then we use that as an excuse as to why we're not committed. But can you get committed to showing up for your spouse in a way that you never have before, regardless of what they do? Right? It reminds me of the love that we have for our children. If you have children, you know there's this unconditional love that we're going to love them no matter what. But somehow it's different in our relationships with our spouses. We love them, we tend to love our spouses more conditionally. When they don't show up, when they don't do what we want them to, when they don't respond the way we think they should, then we begin to self-preserve. We begin to withhold, and we begin to not love the way we were before. But you wouldn't do that with your kid. You continue showing up. You continue loving them, right? You continue pressing in. But why is it different with your spouse, right? What makes that relationship different? I believe we're committed to unconditionally loving our kids just on a higher level. But even that is a choice. You can choose how you're going to show up. So I challenge you to show up for your spouse in a new way. And if you're believing any of those lies, combat those lies. Like that is not true, because it's going to keep getting you what you've been getting. And if you want more, those lies don't serve you. That mindset doesn't serve you, right? What if you chose to do your relationship like you were doing it unto the Lord? Like if you were serving Jesus, if you were serving the Lord, how would you serve him? Would you continue to get offended? Would you continue to bring up the past? Would you continue to live in the past and let that dictate your present? Or would you allow the future of what you want to create to dictate your present? So I hope you got some nuggets out of that. If you did, definitely comment below. Let me know. That was a lot of information all at once. I'd love to hear what you got out of it. If you're not subscribed, definitely subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.